What's up, guys? My name is Khan. We're back today in Scrap Mechanic, and we're back with an awesome new sort of update to Scrap Mechanic. I know the game just got updated with the explosive block, but right after the explosive block update, the devs actually released a new test branch update. And there are a few things that the test branch does, fixes some optimizations here and there. But I think the biggest new feature that the devs have put into the new test branch is momentum conservation. So I know when we were making the last cluster missile, we actually had to have little sort of thrusters on each individual explosive so that they could deploy away from the center chassis. But that's actually all been completely changed now, and we don't actually need that. You can see we've got some parts here from previous launches. We can recreate the same setup rig we used before, so we can just very simply put a spinning bearing here with a little arm on it, and we'll put a little sort of motor on it, just like that. And then, of course, we can have a switch hooked into a decoupler from the mod pack. And last time when we did this exact setup, if we spun the creation just... Oh, I guess we better hook that up first. That would probably be good. Let's just... no. There we go. Perfect. So there we go. So if we activate this switch, it'll disconnect that decoupler. But you can see, when we used to spin this up before, as soon as we activated this decoupler, the motor would just drop instantly where it was because there was no such thing as maintaining velocity from the parent creation to the child creation. But in fact, now there actually is that in this test branch. So you can see if we hit this button, it'll actually throw the motor like a shot put. And it's just absolutely awesome. So you see here, we can take, a bigger object. Let's take 4 motors. So we'll spin it. It'll be a little bit slower. And there we go. Release. And you can see, very awesome. Of course, we'd have to time that. So, of course, a lot of you were saying, well, let's just make it so that the missile spins. And now that's actually 100% possible. Also, stuff, for example, like if you make a bomber and you want to drop bombs out of a plane, there was always the issue before when you were to release the bomb would just sort of stop dead in midair where it is. But now that won't actually happen. Now, every child creation, when it's disconnected from the parent, will inherit the velocity of the parent. So that's kind of awesome. That actually allows us to do all sorts of momentum transfer things and just makes the game that much more realistic. So of course I decided to go back and remake the cluster missile, make it a lot better. I use this sort of spiraling technique as well to sort of disperse the stuff. So just to give an example about how that works, I created this little test rocket just like before, and really simply we've just got 9 sort of bombs here. It looks a little bit complicated, but really it's just 3 timers there on the top, and when we turn on this switch, it'll fly up while spinning. And then after, I think, 6 seconds or something, it'll just deploy them at 1, 2, 3 in a sequence so that you can see the spread. So really simply, this doesn't have any thrusters on them. It just simply spins the rocket, and you can see a really, really good example of how awesome this momentum transfer is. You can see there, look at that. Just spreads out like a perfect flower. Now, obviously, this is a little bit excessive. They're very, very, very far apart, but a really, really great demo. So, of course, I am curious to hear what you guys think about this new little sort of test branch update. There are obviously some bug fixes, some optimizations, but I think this momentum transfer really, really opens it up. And, of course, let me know in the comments down below what kind of creations you think we could use this momentum transfer for. Definitely one of the features in Scrap Mechanic that I'm really, really glad the devs actually went and fixed, and I'm glad they saw it as an issue just as we did, because now there's just so many more creations that we can do. For example, if you're disconnecting a rocket from a plane, you don't have to worry about the missile, doing weird stuff. It'll actually float with the plane at the same speed for a little bit, and then you can deploy it. So really, 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 really cool stuff. So of course I decided to make a new and improved cluster missile. So you can see here, we have the old cluster missile here, which, pretty decent stuff. And if we launch it, it was okay. I mean, there was obviously some issues with it. It would fire up, no problem, go up to a pretty decent height. But there was really 2 main issues with this. One is the spread was always sort of in a plus pattern. It didn't really have that nice circular spread that you get when you spin it. So that was kind of an issue because of the way the thrusters just sort of break them all apart and shoot them all off straight. There was no real rotation. So, of course, adding rotation really fixes that. And then the second issue was this missile had a real problem fighting gravity. So if we went really, really far away from it, it always ended up coming up a little bit short just because it has to fight gravity. And you see there, it actually just landed way behind us. So it always had issues fighting gravity. So I decided with the new cluster missile to sort of remake it again using the same 2 mods, the Intelligentsia mod and the mod pack mod. A little bit taller, same number of explosives. We've got 8 explosives around the outside and then 1 on the tip. But really simply, this cluster missile is the exact same thing as before, just a little bit more complicated. So the previous cluster missile, when you fired it up, it would go up for, I believe, 6 seconds, 10 seconds, something like that. I think it was 10 seconds. And after 10 seconds, it would start tracking the closest target. Of course, with the AI block right here on the bottom, you can see that if we press E, we could just add ourselves to the exception list and have it shoot at a target, for example. So there we go. We'll have it shoot at that player indicator. And then, of course, we can add ourselves to the exception list for this missile. Boom, just like that. We can, of course, use the console if we really want to check. The tracker is now ignoring you. Fantastic. And you can see really simply the exact same design as before, except a little bit more complicated with the logic. So this one will fly up for 20 seconds. It has a zero gravity block built into it. You can see there's one there and there's one there. There's two just to balance the weight, but really it only uses the one of them. And this actually counters gravity. So until the cluster deploys, the missile actually flies with zero gravity on itself only. And I know this isn't 100% realistic to how a missile works in real life, but it actually allows it to counter gravity pretty much, 100% because there is no gravity on it. So when it's aiming at you, it aims pretty much dead on every time. And this really helps get rid of the undershooting capability. When it's 500 blocks above the target, it shuts off the thruster, starts the spinning motion for, I believe, 2 seconds. After 2 or 3 seconds of spinning, it then releases the bottom section of explosives and the top section of explosives, which really gives it an awesome sort of random spreading pattern, which is so much better for a cluster missile. And then, of course, that middle one sort of falling right in the middle on targets. You can see here, we'll just hit one of these switches and it'll go up. 20 seconds total. Now, of course, all the thrusters are a little bit lower because it has zero gravity. It's a little bit easier to manipulate, so it doesn't really have as powerful of thrusters with the cluster missile. And I think if you took off the zero gravity blocks, it wouldn't even be able to steer the way it does. But here, we should see it go down there. So you can see it's gone up. It's 20 blocks. It does sort of, you can see, wobble a little bit. And I know you're going to say, well, the wobbling's not exactly realistic, but it's more accurate with the wobbling than without it. Don't ask me why. I did a lot of testing, and it oversteers, understeers, oversteers, but it definitely makes it more accurate. You can see now it starts to spin, and then it spreads apart, and just ridiculous. Just an awesome, awesome explosion. And I'm pretty sure it got the player indicator. Yeah, you can see there, it did. So the previous one very rarely would hit the player indicator, but this new one, it's just absolutely awesome. So we'll just, we'll put a bunch of player indicators here. We'll put 3 there, spread them out, and we'll just spawn ourselves a bunch of different missiles. Now, of course, this missile is a little bit taller, so sometimes not all the pieces of it get destroyed, you can see, and hence why we've got just a bunch of parts here. So we'll just, again, crouch down, add ourselves to the exception list, and there we go. Crouch down here again, add ourselves to the exception list, and there we go. And very same setup as before. Like I said, it just uses some really simple logic when you turn on the switch to go up with the thrusters with the anti-gravity. Then once you get after the initial timer, turn on the AI block to start, tracking the player or the closest object. And then, of course, after that's been done for a bit, once you get within range of the object coming back here, start that spinning motion, deploy all the things. And the wobble actually really, really helps because it makes it just this sort of really weird position when it starts spinning, you can see. And so that just, look at the breaking apart, just makes for a really, really awesome sort of random cluster bomb. You can see that one's spinning now, and just awesome to watch them transfer. And look, that's 2 gone. Oh, there we go. Yeah, didn't get it initially. And then the third one's coming down. You can see this one, lots of rocket left over, which is kind of terrible, but this one's coming down, it looks like, on that player indicator there. And just so much better than the previous one. I know the previous one had a few issues with accuracy. This one, you can see not nearly. Oh, it still missed that. It's definitely more accurate with the new one. And just to prove that, we're going to just put a car down here. Now, of course, the anti-gravity block does help with this. The ultimate solution would be to make a missile that actually, calculates trajectories and stuff like that. But we're just going to put a player indicator block in this Humvee here. And let's just go even further away just to make sure, we're at a nice safe distance. But this new one, of course, with the test branch update, really, really cool. And of course, I will upload it to the workshop. Now, it will work without the test branch update. So make sure if you are using this game that you are in the test branch. By work without the test branch update, I mean, you'll be able to spawn it. It'll be able to fly up. It'll be able to spin. But if you use this without the test branch update, it'll fly up. It'll do all the same things. But when it spins, it'll actually just spin. And when it deploys, they won't fly out like they're supposed to. They'll just drop right next to the creation. So if you do see that happen, of course, make sure you go and check that you're in the test branch update. And really simply, you can do that by right-clicking on your game, clicking properties in the Steam library, and checking to make sure under the betas tab that you are in the newest test branch. Because if you're not, it will, like I said, it'll work no problem, but it'll be worse than the previous cluster missile. I know a bunch of people downloading this on the workshop are probably going to miss that, and then are probably just going to say, oh, this is worse than the previous one, but I guarantee you it's not, as long as it's in the test branch. So we've added ourselves to this exception list. You can see there it's going over, and it should just destroy that car. We'll see how much damage it does from over here. I mean, it should be pretty good. You can see it's going down there, waving a little bit. I love when it just shuts off all the thrusters and just starts spinning. It's so cool. All right, let's go cluster bomb. Come on. Just waving a little bit. Perfect. Deploy. Excellent. And it just, oh, it only took out the, oh, no, it took out, look at that. It took out the whole top of the car. There's no AI block on it left. All right, well, let's put another one on it real quick. Just put a bunch on it. There we go. All right, and then we'll see if we can actually hit this moving target. I mean, the previous one really had struggles with hitting moving targets. This is just so awesome. I originally thought about making it bigger, but I found one of the biggest problems with having it with more explosives that deploy is the fact that half the time the explosives don't deploy, like they don't explode on the ground. It seems like the more you have calculating all at once, the worse it is. So you can see breaking apart, perfect. Oh, see, like, look at all those didn't, oh my, none of them. What the, what? Oh my goodness. Okay, okay, that was terrible. That first one, not a single explosive. That was amazing, though. But you can see, just like that, half these explosives didn't even deploy, so it's almost perfect timing for the video. That was amazing. But you can see, with more explosives, it actually gets worse and worse and worse. So it's definitely a lot better to use a few less explosives. And I think with all the parts on the map, it's definitely getting worse. Of course, let me know what you think of this build in the comments down below. Let me know, of course, what other things you think we can use this momentum transfer for. I think it's a really, really powerful mechanic. I'm really glad that it got added into the game. I'm glad the devs saw the need for this. And of course, definitely looking at making an automatic bomber would be, I think, the next logical thing. Having bombs that can actually deploy from the creation and maintain momentum with the creation is going to be huge. So just like the original creation, though, the bomb, as soon as it gets released, will experience extreme amounts of friction and start slowing down. But the fact that it actually maintains that initial velocity is really, really quite awesome. And I think this is a really powerful mechanic that we can do all sorts of different things with. So let me know, of course, what you think in the comments down below. And while you're at it, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. And as always, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and we'll see y'all next time. That's so good.